good? The other week, LR Alternative Force hit me up on Twitter just kind of mentioning this thread. I kind of checked it out briefly the other week or the other day, and I found it to be a pretty interesting read. So I definitely did want to cover this on a video and just kind of talk through it. And maybe, you know, talk about a little bit more in detail about the skill sets for some of the units listed on here. So I'm basically just going to be essentially covering, you know, each of these units that are talked about, their builds, and, you know, what my thoughts are on it. And, you know, honestly, the skill orb and hidden potential setup, it ultimately just comes down to what your playstyle preference is. So don't take this as, you know, the Bible or anything. This is just a general guideline on, you know, how to potentially approach it. So with that being said, you know, just kind of go through it and just make your own discretion on, you know, how to go about it. But, you know, definitely leave feedback as to, you know, if you agree or disagree with the skill orb builds that are listed on here, and you know, we can definitely compare notes and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first unit featured on here is the LR Kaioken Blue Goku and Evolution Vegeta. Obviously, they have some very interesting skill sets, like the super attack will, I think, greatly raise attack and defense for one turn, and also lower attack and 18 key will also lower attack and defense. So a lot of skill sets built around that. But even in the passive skill, you do have abilities where, you know, they increase their attack and defense through a nuking passive that also translates to an increase in critical hit percentages and whatnot. You know, I'm sure I've only kind of highlighted the main areas, but that's the type of unit this is. And with that being said, you know, the recommended hidden potential build is, you know, level 11 for additional attack and level 15 for crits. And then the ideal build for the skill orbs is basically 500 for the increased attack as part of the bronze orb, I think. And then for the silver, it's a level 5 increase toward crits. And then for gold, it's the combination of additional attack and crits for +3 levels. That's going to get you roughly about 14,598,000 in attacks per turn. And then with that 40% boost, I believe, which is from the active skill, is a 17,264,000 APT. So basically, it's just signifying that, you know, the way to build it, you can maximize your potential attack per turn. And then obviously the other skill sets are giving you some of the other indications in the APT build based on that. I mean, I think for the most part, I agree. I think I personally might go a little bit heavier toward, you know, additional attack potentially, but I think this is a pretty solid build overall. So certainly leave a comment if you agree with that build or not. Moving on to the EZA physical type Vegito Blue. Obviously, this guy is one of the best EZAs that has come out in the game, and from that perspective, you know, the best build is the 500 for the bronze, level 5 crits for the silver, and then for the gold, it's another level 5. So, I think maximizing the critical hits within the potential system is probably the ideal way to go about it, given the fact that, you know, with the EZA, he does have the great chance of performing an additional attack or super attack, whichever the case was. So, you know, they did modify it, I think, with the I don't think it was a great chance. I think it was more or less, let's take a look. I don't want to give the wrong information, so let me just double check. Yeah, it's a great chance of launching up to 2 additional attacks, each of which has a medium chance of becoming a super attack. So that's what it was. The 2 different variables, a part of that same passive skill set. So, you know, you got your APTs and whatnot. I'm not really going to cover this in detail too much, but I think, you know, this is probably the general rule of thumb here for this unit, is to go heavier toward crits. This is, you know, given the fact that this guy has the countering ability, so every attack received, he's got the potential to counter with crits. So that's kind of why, you know, with all the combination of skill sets built in, you know, crits is definitely the way to go for this guy. Now, this is a fairly recent EZA, the Int version of Super Gogeta. In terms of like the recommended build here, it looks like, again, the 500 toward attack. So you're seeing a common theme here where this actually does provide a benefit instead of, you know, focusing more toward, you know, additional attack crits or whatever. Like the attack increase of 500 for the bronze, it seems to have a pretty decent material impact on the you know, total attacks per turn based on these calculation methods anyway by Alternative Force. But, you know, 500 toward attack bronze, silver is level 5 for additional attack and level 3 for I think additional attack and also the super attack levels. So the recommended hit potential build is level 15 additional attack and level 6 for crits. I kind of went with a different approach for this one. I essentially flipped the crits with evasion levels. Now he does have, I think, a medium chance to evade enemy attacks, including supers, depending on the amount of ki I think you collect or obtain. So he already does have built-in skill sets for that, but because this guy is able to attack effectively against all types, I just ultimately decided to go with, a little bit more even approach of having the ability to evade attacks on a more regular basis. So that's pretty much my, thought process behind that. So. All right, with that being said, moving on to the Super Saiyan Gogeta, I pretty much went with a similar approach with this guy that I did with the Super Gogeta. So the best build recommendation is 500 again toward attack with the bronze, super attack with level 5 for the silver, and then for the gold, it's level 3 additional attack, and I believe super attack level 3 as well. I think personally, instead of the recommended hidden potential of 20 additional attack and 6 crits, again, I'm pretty sure I went with the level 20 additional attack and level 6 evasion. But, ultimately you can't go wrong with that. I think the reason why I did that is because, the guaranteed crits once you transform. But, of course, unless you transform, you're not going to be able to get any crits. But, again, this guy also does effectively attack against all types. So, ultimately, I decided to go with a more even approach, so to speak. So, all right, let's move on to LR Trunks. Shout out to Social Fire on that one, right? Best build, again, attack increase of 500 with the bronze, super attack levels plus 5 with the silver, and additional attack and super attack levels of 3 for the gold. And then the recommended potential system build is 20 additional attack and 6 crits. I think I pretty much agree with this one. Great chance of performing a critical hit, with the passive skill. It kind of makes sense to go toward the additional attack approach. Now, I mean, you could technically go with the level 17 AA and level 9 toward crits. I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea either, but in combination, you do have essentially 23 levels toward additional attack. So I did forget to mention this, but the overall package is basically your hidden potential builds plus the equipment builds, and you'll have your total levels toward the additional attack, crits, and evasion and whatnot where it applies. So again, another unit that's you probably do want to focus on additional attacks is the transforming strength cooler. Obviously one of the best units in the game too, personal favorite of mine. It's certainly up there in the ranks, but again, ultimately because of the post-transformation abilities, you do want to go with a focus toward additional attack. It's guaranteed crits, I think, against pure Saiyans and Hyper Saiyans. So, against those types of enemies, you're pretty much doing a lot of damage. Plus, this guy does have the ability to, stack attack with every super attack. So, again, additional attack is ultimately the right approach for that one. So I think in terms of the best build, 500 toward attack, level 5 additional attack with the silver, and then level 3 is another additional attack and super attack levels of 3. So that's pretty much the format with that. Generally, I agree with that. I think you certainly do want to focus on additional attack for this unit. Okay, so moving on to the 5-year LRs. So we've got the Vegito Blue and also the Gogeta Blue. So the recommended build is level 6 additional attack, level 20 crits. I would probably personally go with a little bit more even approach, maybe a little bit higher levels toward additional attack, maybe a 917 approach. You could certainly go 1511 and then build out the skill orbs builds upon that. But based on this overall thread, it's 500 toward attack and 5 levels toward additional attack, and also the combination of crits and additional attack of level 3. That essentially gets you level 11 or 14, I guess, for additional attack, and also 23 for crits. I guess from the broad scheme of things, I guess that's not necessarily bad. A 16 and 23 distribution. Again, I would probably go a little bit higher with the additional attack levels, but I don't think this is necessarily a bad build either. So you can't go either way. You can't go wrong either way is basically what I'm trying to say. Okay, so for the LR Gogeta Blue unit, it's funny because they have two different scenarios here. One is pre-transformation and one is post-transformation. This one's built more toward longer modes, like longer battle modes. This one is geared toward the shorter events like Super Battle Road, Battlefield, Extreme Z Battle, and Dokkan events. So that's kind of two different ways to look at it. So with that being said, you want to go with the 12 to 14 distribution. In terms of like this setup, whereas this one has the heavier focus toward additional attack. I think from a build standpoint, it looks to be pretty similar. Just 500 attack, 5 levels toward additionals, and also the combination of crits and additional attack +3, whereas this one is basically additional attack and super attack levels of +3. So this is an alternative option too, by the way. So I'm only covering the best build section, but these are alternative options you can certainly go through as well. So again, these guys do have like pre-transformation the ability to raise attack, and then obviously you lose that ability once you transform. But you can certainly stack. I think it's both attack and defense, early on for a little bit, at least before the transformation. But I don't see necessarily any huge issues with that. I don't have any quarrels. I think it's a pretty decent setup with that regard. So, all right, let's move on to the Worldwide Celebration Strength Type Super Gogeta unit, or Super Vegito unit. I mean, you've got the recommended hidden potential of level 6 additional attack and 24 crits, and then basically applying a lot more levels, basically 8 levels toward additional attack, so this will be essentially a lot more, and then crits also going up by 3, and then the attack increase of 500 with the bronze skill orb. So these will get you the following APTs and also whatnot. But again, this guy does have the countering abilities and whatnot. So I think in a broad summary term, the crits are definitely a more ideal setup in terms of how to go about it. So I mean, even with no dupes, this guy's able to perform a pretty good level. Like, I mean, I could easily see like close to 5 million, or if not more, based on just a 55% potential and a good team setup. But yeah, certainly a good unit even at that level. So of course, applying skill orbs will definitely help you with the 55% potential units and getting at least some levels toward it. Okay, so this is the Trunks and Mai unit. I'm a little bit surprised I saw this on there, in comparison to some of the other units featured. But this is, a decent unit and no doubt not a bad one. So they definitely went pretty heavy with the additional attack. Level 20, pretty much the cap you can get for that, and level 6 toward crits. In terms of the builds, attack increase of 500. Super attack levels of 5 with the silver, and then additional attack and super attacks with level 3. Again, I think ultimately these setups are based on maximizing the attack per turn. I think the calculations behind it were basically trying to maximize the attacks per turn. So that's kind of the one approach. The other one is just your overall playstyle preference and what you want to do about it, and go about it in a potentially different fashion. But with that being said, this one is, it's got very unique skill sets. I think a lot of the attack and defense increase with the passive is based on, the types of enemies you're facing, but also the types of allies you have on the rotation as well. So they do have material impact on, how much of a boost you get overall in attack and defense. And they do also have an active skill. So let's take a quick look. Right here, raises attack by 628% temporarily, then causes damage to enemy, and within the turn activated, all attacks become critical hits and stun the attack enemies while reducing own defense by half. Can be activated when there's another ally whose name is Teen Future Trunks, Future Trunks, or Future Mai, attacking on the same turn, starting from the third turn from the start of battle. So again, like I was saying, you do have like parameters built around increases toward the skill sets depending on the types of enemies and allies you have on the rotation. So yeah, it definitely makes team building a little bit interesting when it comes to that. Okay, so we're just going to quickly move on to some of the other units. So the 4-year LR units, again, I'm just going to read these out. 500 again for both. With the bronze, this one is 5 levels toward crits, whereas Vegeta has 5 levels toward additional attack, and then 5 toward crits here, whereas you've got a combination of crits and additional attack of level 3. So again, this is based on, you know, the skill sets built in and applying the calculations, I guess, for the APT. So I'm trying to remember the setup I went with. I think I went with something similar here. 917 is probably my build, and then for Goku I went with pretty much 1115. So I think I agree with that. Setup here. I think, you know, you're basically maximizing your crits for Goku, whereas, you know, this one is you know, you're basically making up the additional attack levels through the skill orbs, and focusing on the potential system in this regard. Now, another one, this is, you know, one of my favorite units too. You don't hear about it too much, but I am still a very massive fan of the Tech Vegito Blue. Obviously, I love the stacking abilities of attack and defense with the super attack. So 917 is pretty much exactly the build I went with, and then I just kind of built on a bunch of additional attacks to it. So again, you see this here where you have 5 levels toward additional attack and also 3 with the gold skill orb. So you're building up the additional attack levels in addition to having crits. So I pretty much followed the same logic. I probably went with maybe level 5 additional attack with the gold skill orb, but you know, the concept essentially is the same. But you know, once you get the attack and defense levels stacked up in longer events, this guy will do massive amounts of damage. So you know, don't sleep on this guy. You know, this guy still, he can still perform. You know, not to the levels of some of the newer units, but this guy is up there in terms of how he can perform it, especially in longer events. So all right, let's move on. This is the EZA AGL Super Vegito. So obviously a little flashback of people not being as satisfied with the EZA for this unit, but you know, depending on, you know, how your play style, you know, this might differ, but the best build for this unit is, you know, again, the 500 toward attack with the bronze, 5 toward crits with the silver, and additional attack and crits for +3 levels, and then hidden potential is 1115. I pretty much went with that, and I'm pretty sure I followed the same logic here. So I have no quarrels with that. I think this is a pretty decent build for that unit. All right, Vados. So this is a unit I have to admit I'm not really that familiar with, because I haven't, you know, necessarily used it because I haven't, you know, pulled this unit yet. So from a best build standpoint, it's pretty much centered around crits. Potential levels are basically 6 and 15. If we go to her stats, let's just take a quick look. So you have the ability to lower attack and still super attacks with the, you know, with her super attack ability, and also the high chance of evading attacks. And then based on the categories, allies will get a boost based on that, and also randomly changes key sphere of a certain type to rainbow key. And then when there's a universe 6 category ally attack, or randomly changes it if there's a universe 6 category ally attacking on the same turn. So you know, I think in terms of like the overall setup, that's probably the way to go anyway, because outside of lowering attack, you know, which is I think minimal effect at this point, but you know, sealing a super attack can potentially help out. But I think necessarily, you know, not necessarily. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, I would probably go with that method too. I would probably center around crits. I don't know, maybe a little bit higher toward additional attack, but at this point, I really don't have any quarrels with that. Now, this one is a little bit of one that's kind of like open in the air, right? Because the EZA still hasn't happened yet. So I guess based on the current setups, this is kind of built based on that. But of course, with the EZA, the stats will change a bit. So I'm pretty sure I went with the level 11, level 15 for the potential system setup. Now, I don't necessarily remember if I did give skill orbs to my physical type final form cooler. I might have given the 500 toward attack as a bronze, but just holding off on the other 2 sections just to wait until the EZA announcement is officially released, or we find out info about it, because I do want to kind of build it around what the final product is for the EZA. But with that being said, the recommended build here is level 5 toward crits with the silver, and then again the crits and additional attack with the level 3. Now, I do have to note, these are the recommended or best build based on calcs, but this one right here is pretty rare to obtain, so it's not like everybody's going to have that easily available unless you're saving. Like I think I have a fair amount because I've been saving them and not necessarily using them, but you know, this is one of those where with the, you know, the last chain battle, they kind of had a new set of items you could pull from, you know, the you know, chest openings or whatever. So, you know, that's pretty much the deal with that. If we take a look at his current stats, though, you know, causes immense damage to enemy and greatly lowers defense. So, of course, having some levels toward additional attack is important, especially for events like Super Battle Road and whatnot. He does have the ability to launch an additional attack, which has a chance to become a super attack, along with the attack and defense increase 100%. I think, you know, logically speaking, I don't necessarily disagree with what was recommended in terms of like the best build, because, you know, honestly, I think for the passive skill, they'll definitely improve the attack and defense percentage boost as a base, but also I'm hoping they do something similar to the Easy A physical Vegito Blue, where it changes from, you know, chance to not necessarily a great chance, but at a minimum, you know, at least put in a medium chance. You know, that would definitely make it a lot more viable and a lot more enjoyable, to be honest with you, because a lot of times I do find myself frustrated because this guy is getting additional attacks in, but it's only for a normal attack, not necessarily super. So, you know, the chance to become a super attack is definitely something that will be changed for sure. I mean, that only equates to 10%, and that's basically what physical Vegito Blue had before the Easy A. So, alright, so we went through the whole list and just kind of covered it briefly, but, you know, hopefully you guys found it helpful. Let me know in the comments what your recommended builds or what you would have done. Otherwise, you know, let's just have a conversation going. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.